an estate there that was bequeathed to Wembley Council. Then Titus Barham died and his widow moved away. The house went into disrepair. So the house they actually lived in isn't even there because it was knocked down because it was too derelict. So everything seems to be following on that side of things. But are the buildings themselves actually worth saving, or are they just a millstone round the council's neck?
So I'd like to respectfully disagree with my boss, actually, but from what I've heard today, and the passion from various organisations and the use of the building, I think it's a really important estate, and it's really important that we sustain it for current and future generations as well. And actually, going back to Councillor Long's point about opening up the building to the wider community is also important, and part of this request to the Charity Commission to expand the uses is so that we can have a broader use, which may actually bring in more of the public to actually appreciate and enjoy the building and the park as well.
Daniel, I'm not too far away from where Janice sort of started off from, because I've been to the building. And I've seen the state of the building as well, and I've also seen the many rooms and the spaces, and at the moment, right, honestly, right, I don't really think it's fit for purpose as such, or fit for going forward as well. Right, we want to make sure, right, that the spaces that are there are used efficiently and well. Okay, right, but in order to do that, right, to make sure, right, that it is energy efficient, right, the heating works, the roof doesn't leak, right, and everything else, right, it will need a level of investment, right, and as Councillor Georgia said, we've heard from people who are enjoying the building, right, in order for that enjoyment to continue, right. Right, so sometimes you have to do work. It's no different, right, to your own home, right. If you don't do the work, right, it becomes more expensive, right. And what we're trying to do now is absolutely start the conversation about what we need to do. Right? There are some works that are in the pipeline, in train, but we also need to take a look at the future as well, right. It's no different, right, to any of us, right. I mean, all households do grow. Right, and we want Barham Park to grow as well, and we want as many people as possible to enjoy that space. But in order for that to happen, we do need to make some of that investment, and we do need to make the plans, and that's all we're doing with these reports.
Cllr Mary Mitchell.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to offer a comment and then a set of questions. I think my comment on Councillor Long's points, I think our starting point of sort of, is this a millstone around the council's neck, I think is fundamentally not a helpful position, because I think ultimately we are in a public funding crisis. There is an absolute dearth of facilities that communities can use across the borough. And I think this is an opportunity, and again, this actually is to Councillor Long's point on, are we consulting the other parts of our communities in addition to those that already use the services? I think there's an opportunity to think, actually, what are the needs as a borough? Like, where are our biggest needs? What is our overall strategy? I think if we can consider this in the context of the property strategy, I think that's also helpful. Because I think ultimately this is a community asset that should be still serving a lot of our communities. So let's sort of take it from that basis of sort of what's the need, what's the social value that this can provide. And then my questions, what I'm struggling with a little bit is the sort of the financial risk and the financial investment that's involved. And I'm wondering if you can just talk me through this decision-making process so far, because it seems like the council spent sort of £20,000 or thereabouts on this sort of architectural appraisal in 23, and there's a question mark around that as well, because it seems like the council was going to pay it, and then actually the trust had to pay it. So they invested £20,000 in 23 for some plans that were not going to be delivered until 2031. There's also a business case that still hasn't been developed, and I note that that is due to be developed. So what was the rationale behind investing some money sort of a long way ahead of 2031 not having done the business modeling in the first place. And yeah, I'm just wondering, and with still quite a sizable amount of risk attached in terms of whether the what's the word, like the covenant will be able to be changed in order to make the bronze option feasible anyway. So I'm just wondering if you could sort of reassure us of that, the timeline, the risk. And I think my other question that's attached to that is, at the moment it says the council will be funding this bronze option. From what funding pot is the council going to be funding that? Is that a sensible decision for the council financially in terms of the risk?
Sandra?
So in terms of the work that was done by the architects, that was to help us articulate the art of what's possible across 3 different options: gold, silver, and bronze. So we've got something tangible to work to and be able to share and secure engagement on. In terms of the investment plan, we've got a sufficient level of detail to understand ballpark costs, but I cannot be frivolous with trust money and bring on board quantity surveyors, cost consultants, when we've got quite sort of conceptual architectural plans, because we didn't want to invest so much in a plan that will change through the course of engagement and other things that may come online. So we have a sufficient level of detail today to be say, on the bronze option, based on current market conditions and what we know, we're looking at circa £1.7 million worth of investment required. That predominantly is based on a capital borrowing, but that's not to say we can't look at other grant opportunities or look at strategic seal funding further down the line. But we can't develop that business case now because the design isn't fixed. And I would be misinforming trust to say, trust me on this business case today, because it will stand the test of time in 7 years' time. It won't. Things will change. So we have to create a sufficient level of detail and work out how we get to the final design to then work out how much is actually going to cost based on a fixed design proposal. So that's kind of, hopefully that gives you enough assurance that we've done enough work to be able to commence the next stage, but we're not committing to an investment plan or a business case yet because there's so much more unknowns to work through.
Yeah.
I just want to add that when you consider the value of the estate, the costs are actually very proportionate, and actually they are a necessity to give us insights, to give officers insights and the trust committee insights into what, as Tanvir has mentioned, what is actually possible and what the constraints are and what the challenges are. So they are a necessity, you know, when you are strategically planning.
One sort of final reflection on that trail of thought in terms of these options. I note that in the report under the climate change or sustainability sort of implications, it says none, which is a very common recurring theme. And I'm wondering if that is true or if in fact climate change was considered through things like the cost of insulation. Is it an opportunity to think about retrofit? Have we thought about energy sources? Have we thought about the different architectural options in terms of embodied carbon? Has that at all been considered? Are there in fact climate change considerations that could have been added?
I think the no statement, as in the here and now, is predominantly based on the level of design that we've got. So we haven't really invested in what sort of materials and features we're going to be able to incorporate as part of the fixed design process. And that will dictate what opportunities there will be in terms of retrofit, carbon emissions, net zero. But all those things are expensive. So we have to tread a fine line in terms of what climate change mitigations we can put in as part of the longer term investment plan. But we've got to find the most sort of value for money options, and notwithstanding that the design isn't fixed yet. So I think that's probably why it's a no right now, but that's not to say it's full stop.